Good morning, everyone. Let us get started. Are you able to hear the audio now? Please, some of you confirm that you are able to hear the audio. Okay, perfect. Okay, so there was some issue. Okay, so thank you so much for your patience. So let us get started. So this is our weekly webinar, and my name is Venkatesh Narayanan. I'm working as principal consultant at Physics Business Consultants. So today's topic is enterprise inventory policy. It's a very interesting topic. So let us get started with a quick question. Just I want to understand, like what is your level of proficiency with the enterprise inventory policy, so that based on that I can give my inputs. Okay. So there is a quick poll here. You can select. Like I have implemented EIP, that is the highest level. I have moderate knowledge, or I'm a starter. Take 2 minutes and complete this, so that this will give me some good inputs how to go about our discussion. So we are getting some kind of like there are few implementers, and so far like it is 62% starter, 35% is moderate, and some 3% is I have implemented enterprise inventory policy. Okay, so with this, like I'm closing this poll, and we will get started. So there is a quick introduction about our webinar series itself. This is a weekly webinar series, and your one-time registration is enough, and you will get this invite every week. And we'll be having, we'll be discussing about SCM concepts, tools, and techniques. The webinar duration is typically 30 minutes. 25 minutes we will discuss on the topic, and 5 minutes dedicated to Q&A. And please take the polls along the way. Like you will have like 3-4 questions max, and this will help us to better design this webinar series. And there is a handout section on the GoToWebinar panel where you can download this presentation itself in PDF format. I would also request you to search in Google this particular phrase given under resources, PeopleSoft Enterprise Inventory Policy. When you search this phrase in Google, you will be getting a PDF, and this is some 170 pages document from Oracle. You will get some good insights, though it is dedicated to a software implementation, but still as a kind of like as a inventory professional, we will get a lot of insights. You can get a feel of the breadth and the depth of enterprise inventory policy. Okay, and there's a quick introduction about physics. Physics specializes in business analysis, supply chain management, and new product development consulting, and we are also offering several certifications in this area. And with respect to supply chain management, we are representing EPICS USA and SIPS UK, and our certifications are Certified Supply Chain Professional, CPIM, CLTD, and the 5 levels of SIPS UK certifications in procurement and supply. Okay, all these are like very good certifications, and if you are interested, you can contact our organization. Fine, let us get started. So now, before getting into enterprise inventory policy, shortly known as EIP, we need to understand inventory in 3 dimensions. And when we say inventory, we have to define this in terms of types of inventory, functions of inventory, and nature of demand. Then only the inventory definition is complete in all its respect. Because this is what we are going to discuss. We are going to expand this in the next few slides. So the types of inventory, we have these 5 types, right? Raw material, work in process, finished goods. And then we have distribution inventory, that is the same finished goods in the distribution network. And then we have a special category of inventory called MRO, that is maintenance, repair, and operating supplies, right? So the 5 types of inventory. And the functions of inventory, we start with safety stock and cycle stock. That is the most important thing. Then we build sometime anticipation inventory, buffer inventory. Then we have this kind of like hedge inventory, where whenever the price is lowering in the market, we will buy in bulk. So we call it as hedge inventory. Then in terms of nature of demand, we have independent demand and dependent demand. When I say independent demand, this is, we are talking about the finished goods or the spare parts which you are selling to the customers. So why we are saying independent demand? Because the factors are not really controllable, that how much people will buy. You should be prepared for this. So for independent demand, we do the forecasting. For dependent demand, it is the derivative of the independent demand. Basically, we use the bill of materials, right? So with this kind of like high level understanding about inventory. So when we say inventory, these are all the materials in different forms. It could be raw material, work in process, or finished goods, or your distribution inventory, MRO. Put together, we call this as inventory, right? These are all the materials, right? And there's we can have detailed discussion, but we will reserve this for one other future session. Now let us get into inventory policy. Enterprise inventory policy. What is the enterprise inventory policy? Enterprise inventory policy is the constitution for a company's inventory decisions. This is the ultimate book which you will refer for all your inventory decisions. The whole company works on inventory matters by referring this. It talks about anything and everything on matters concerning inventory in your company, right? So inventory policy is, you can call it as a book, a guide, or a manual, or a standard operating procedure. Different companies use different terms. But when I say enterprise inventory policy, on inventory matters, this is the ultimate authority within the company. Nobody has right to deviate from this, right? And what is the purpose of this? The first purpose is, using that you will practice all your inventory activities. And then whenever you want to conduct an audit on inventory, you will use this as a reference. So this EIP document or EIP manual is a reference for your practice as well as audit, right? So now, why EIP is important? For any typical manufacturing organization, procurement takes about 70% of its turnover. You know, you might have heard this rule, 70-20-10 for a manufacturing company. That is 70% of their turnover, okay, 70% of their turnover is what they're buying as raw materials from the suppliers. And another 20% is the value addition. Then of course the company has to make a profit. That is a 10% profit margin, right? So we call this as a 70-20-10 rule. Not exactly fits to all the companies, but typical, you can say. So when the procurement, that is like your materials and components put together, raw materials, right? Materials and components put together, we call it as raw materials. This raw material forms as high as, and your MRO also, as high as 70% of your turnover, then that is the most the single head on which any manufacturing company spends the money. This is one single head. There is a topmost amount. Then you need to have a clear policy, right? So that's what we are saying. EAP is very important. Then for any organization, your carrying cost is typically around 25%. This figure is coming from Epix USA. 25% of your average annual inventory is going invisibly as carrying cost, right? Then the reducing product life cycles. Recall in your childhood. The thing is, like, you might have used a television for 15-20 years, a radio for 30 years, right? A refrigerator for 10-15 years. But what is the situation today? Today, kind of like, you can say a television is like maybe good for like 3 or 5 years max, and we are changing this. Refrigerator 3 to 5 years again. So what you are finding is the product life cycle is actually shrinking. So when the product life cycle is shrinking, you cannot build enough, like too much of finished goods inventory, because at some point of time the customer says, my preference has changed, and kind of like, I don't want to go for this particular product. I'm not happy with the features what you are offering. So the product life cycle is shrinking, and the consumer preference is constantly changing. Consumer preference is only kind of like it is going up, except this COVID scenario. In all other circumstances, the consumer preference is kind of like it is always going up. Then disruptions on the supply side and demand side, right? We are coming across disruptions both on supply side and demand side. Then fast changing business models. Business model itself is changing. Lot of innovations are happening on the business model itself. All these things makes EIP as very important, because inventory can make or break a company, right? Inventory can make or break a company. Inventory may be kind of like the best policy towards inventory may be behind the success of a company, and the same thing could be behind the failure of a company also, because we are talking about like 70% of a company's turnover is spent on one head, which is called inventory, right? So that is the reason like companies are focusing on this enterprise inventory policy. So now, elements of an enterprise inventory policy. We will be discussing this in greater detail in the coming slides. But at a very high level, we divide this from a macro and micro perspective. You know, in economics, we discuss macroeconomics. It talks about a country as a whole. We will talk about GDP of the country, the unemployment ratio in a country, right? So for example, like the recent COVID scenario, the unemployment in North America is around like in US, it is touching close to say 20%. It's a very serious condition. So these are all the things. When we talk about this, we are talking about the macro economy, and micro means at a nitty-gritty levels. For example, a particular vegetables price increase. For example, sometime back we were talking about the onion price increase. So that is a kind of like when you talk about a particular commodity, it is a micro level, right? So the same way, this is just an analogy, okay? In the same way, in case of enterprise inventory policy, you have macro level and micro level. The macro level talks about aggregate inventory, and the micro level talks about item level inventory, right? The macro is aggregate inventory and micro is item level inventory. We will discuss this in nitty-gritties in the coming slides. So aggregate inventory. So for any company, this enterprise inventory policy will talk about what is the maximum investment we can put on inventory. It is not like you cannot kind of like, you see, all companies have, whether you take a individual or a family or a company or a country, everybody has limited resources. You don't have anything unlimited, right? So when we are working in this limited scenario, this is applicable to the company as well. So a company will park certain amount on the inventory. This money is locked for dedicatedly for the inventory, and you cannot use it for any other purpose. So what is that maximum investment you want to have on inventory? And based on that, you will kind of like also say like how much average inventory that will be enforced through the inventory turnover ratio. So what is the inventory turnover ratio for a company? It is annual COGS divided by average annual inventory, right? Your inventory turnover ratio is annual COGS, annual cost of goods sold, divided by your annual average inventory. So now when you fix the maximum investment on inventory, right? And when you have this clear-cut inventory turnover ratio, for example, a manufacturing company may have inventory ratio as 20, but if you take a bakery, they will have kind of like inventory turnover ratio as 200, right? So it's a different production environments will have different inventory turnover ratios. So you need to benchmark what is the best inventory turnover ratio accomplishable or achievable in your industry. You cannot like being a, say you are a automobile company, you should not compare yourself with a bakery, right? It's a kind of like a two different production environment. The products are completely different. The nature of that industry is different. The bakery is like highly perishable in nature. The shelf life of the product is less. On the other hand, here it is different. Here the value is very high. the other hand, like the value is low. So you need to clearly have a benchmark, and you need to come out with this turnover ratio, inventory turnover ratio for your organization. And the inventory is represented in your balance sheet in current assets. So what is the kind of distribution you want to have? For example, you know very well that $10 billion I want to commit for my inventory at any time. At any time, $10 billion are kind of like committed on the inventory. That means your average inventory, what you have within your organization, that is the average inventory we are talking about, right? Average inventory, what you want to have within your organization, say $10 billion. For example, one of the large corporation in US, their annual turnover is $75 billion. Okay, this is a retail chain, and $75 billion, and their typical inventory is around kind of like $15 billion average inventory. So it's a kind of like the inventory turnover ratio is like, say, close to 4.75 for them. So it's a very low inventory turnover ratio. Okay, but in case of a premium retail segment, this is acceptable. Okay, but on the other hand, you take Walmart, their inventory turnover ratio may be kind of like 8 to 10. Okay, so depends on the organization, things will change. It depends on the production, depends on the nature of the business. So here when we say the balance sheet talks about the current assets, within the current asset we have raw material, work in process, finished goods, and MRO, right? And sometimes we include a distribution inventory also whenever the company owns the distribution inventory, right? So now how much you want to have? For example, when you have this maximum investment on inventory is limited, you want to increase distribution inventory, then you need to reduce the finished goods or work in process or raw materials. One kind of like everything will like interact with each other, right? So basically, like we are talking about raw materials, the RM, WIP, FG, distribution inventory, and MRO, how this money is distributed. So still we are talking about aggregate inventory. This is like a macro level. We are not talking about a nut or bolt or a particular assembly, right? Or any particular SKUs of finished goods. No, we are talking about at a bigger picture. That is the reason we call this as aggregate inventory. Aggregate means a summation, sum total of inventory. And here, like we have within the organization, in terms of inventory, we have opposing forces. For example, if you ask finance how much I need to spend on inventory, they will give you the lowest number. On the other hand, procurement want to buy the inventory in good quantity so that they get the discounts. And manufacturing want to have sufficient inventory so that the production never comes to a halt. The sales and marketing wants the inventory highly distributed across the geography in all the models, good numbers, so that they don't have a last sale opportunity, right? No stockouts. So sales and marketing would be very happy on this. So all these things are opposing goals. This is like, kind of like the ant is pulling a particular food item in different directions, right? You can see. So what is the balance required? Aggregate inventory policy should talk about what is that balance. Okay, because the whole organization has to succeed. It is not about each department is succeeding. Okay, they may be achieving their goals. For example, the procurement guy may be, or the procurement head may be having a target that you need to show a savings of 3% in terms of procurement this year. Okay, so his motive is always kind of like to buy in bulk and to achieve this 3%. But it's a kind of like, on the other hand, the finance will say, no, you are kind of like pushing too much of money on the raw material alone. Okay, what about finished goods? Sales will ask for more distribution inventory. Manufacturing will ask for MRO and a decent size of inventory, right? So all these things are opposing goals. How to balance this? So the kind of like the clear guidelines should be given in the aggregate inventory, under aggregate inventory for the enterprise inventory policy. Then guiding standards. What are the various standards that is governing your industry in terms of inventory? For example, the International Accounting Standards 2. It talks about the inventory. For any multinational organization, they follow International Accounting Standards 2. It talks about the inventory costing and other aspects. Then, like in kind of like the synchronizing demand and supply, we have 4 levels, right? Just to visualize this. Synchronizing demand and supply in any organization, we have these 4 levels. Strategic planning, sales and operations planning, then master production schedule or master scheduling, then materials requirements planning. The top 2 comes under aggregate inventory. Strategic planning and S&OP comes under aggregate inventory, because in strategic planning, how do you talk about how do you kind of like, it is the forecast about the sales. In strategic planning, the top management goes to a resort for 3 days, and they will have a complete discussion about the coming years. So they will be planning for the next 3 to 5 years, and this is something like this is going to drive the entire business for this year and the coming years. So they do this exercise every year, right? So there they will try to forecast that this is the kind of sale we want to make. And when you say this is the sale, and also it affects the amount of investment on the inventory. You want to double the sales, approximately you will increase the inventory, say 1.5 times to 2 times. If you want to exactly double the inventory also, okay, when you double the sales, you will kind of like increase somewhere between 1.5 to 2 times. Then sales and operations planning. This is the forecast at a family level. So that is the reason we are talking about this under aggregate inventory. So how the sales and operations planning will be happening within the organization? What are the communications? Who are all the people involved? All those things will be here. Then schedule of powers. Who is authorized to do what? For example, as a junior buyer, I may be authorized to buy items to the tune of say 1 crore. Okay. A senior would be authorized to procure until up to 10 crores. Okay, they are authorized to issue the purchase orders, okay, to the suppliers. So that is called the schedule of powers. Okay, schedule of powers means like what you can do, kind of like who can do, how much they can do, when they can do. All those things are like nitty-gritty. It is clear. And this also talks about the list of stakeholders and their roles and responsibilities. Who are all the people involved? I'm having few questions here. And we will discuss during the kind of like a question and answer session. Then name and functions of facilities. So kind of like what is the network you have? Okay, what are the warehouse names and where inventory can be stored? It is not like you can put inventory wherever we want, right? In a company. So you have like raw material stores, work in process stores, then MRO stores, then finished goods stores. Then you will be having kind of like various distribution facilities, warehouses across the country, right? Depends on the size of your organization. So all those things will be listed here. So this is here like you need to kind of, you see, this is not the complete thing what I'm showing on this slide. It's a kind of, but these are all the most important thing that comes under EAP, right? EAP is a massive task. Okay, not all companies have EAP. I have seen some of the largest companies, when I ask them like, can I have access to your enterprise inventory policy? Whenever we do a project, I ask them, can I have access to your enterprise inventory policy? Because it makes the job a little easier for us, right? The thing is like, I will not be asking like anything, everything from different people. Rather, I can learn a great deal of information from this EAP itself. But then they ask me like, what is EAP? Okay, what is enterprise inventory policy? What do you mean by that? Okay, so this, I'm not joking. Like, this is not small organization I'm talking about. I'm not saying the names, but these are all the best of the best organization across the globe. And when they have enterprise inventory policy, I would say they can save some 2 to 5% in their turnover. That is a significant impact. This is all about money. This is not like something like you are creating something for the sake of it is not a aesthetic part. Okay, this is something like helpful for the company to increase the profit margin. You can increase the margin 2 to 5% without increasing your sales, right? So let us move on to the item level inventory policy. So item level inventory. So here we use the term item number, part number, SKU number. In companies, it is interchangeably used. Item number is given to raw materials. Part number is to work in process. SKU number is for your finished goods and spare parts, right? Very clear cut, right? And each company should have a nomenclature, how we are going to number it. In some cases, like I have seen, people give their finished goods number as and when they think, okay, but it should not be. There should be a policy guiding this. There should be meaningful naming convention, and what to order, when to order, how many to order. This is about the replenishment policies. Then forecasting methods. You can have a inward looking, outward looking, or hybrid. Inward looking means I may be going through my historical numbers and I will be doing a time series forecast. This is inward looking. For a stable company, this is fine. But outward looking, a company that is undergoing a lot of disruptions, say mobile companies, mobile phone companies, the thing is like they cannot rely on their past figures. Okay, in 3 years is a good time. In case of mobile companies, 3 years is a good time to make a company very successful from scratch, or a very successful company to go out of business. That is such a short period for any business, 3 years, 2 years, right? So forecasting method, like in these companies, mobile phone companies, they are more outward looking, kind of like what is happening in the market, right? And then inventory valuation. How do you value the inventory in your books? When you are representing this in your balance sheet, how do you value it? FIFO, LIFO, average, and standard costing methods. What is the method you want to adapt? These are all different methods available for all the companies. But what is your method? Then now from this demand and supply synchronization, on the right hand side, you can see master scheduling and MRP. These two are belonging to the item level inventory. How we are doing this? What is the policy here, right? Then list of stakeholders and their roles and responsibilities with respect to this. The network planning, that is echelons and nodes. Echelons are the layers, nodes are the different entities. For example, all warehouses, you can say put together, we can call it as a echelon, distribution center echelon, okay, or upper distribution center echelon, you can call this. And the nodes are kind of like the individual entities, right? So how it is organized in your company. Then inventory auditing, what method you are using, periodic or perpetual? What kind of like cycle counting is one of the popular method, and what is the policies around that? Then inventory movement, valuation is different, movement is different. Valuation is you are representing in the books, in the book of accounts, financial matters. Here, inventory movement is how it is physically moved within your warehouse. First in, first out, or LIFO, last in, first out, or it is moved in a random manner. Then what are the ABC classification criteria? In fact, our next webinar is on ABC classification criteria, right? The thing is like, what is we will be talking about what is the ABC classification and how it works, how to create this for your company, and what are the different criterion we use. Okay, different criterion we can have in different parts of the organization, because ABC classification is not the same thing for the end-to-end organization. In different departments, they will have different ABC classification as a matter of convenience to them, or what they want to control. What is the focus or the driver for this department's success, right? Then inventory cost. How do we arrive at this cost? Item cost, landed cost. What are all the elements you will include in the landed cost? You need to come out with a specification or a guidance, carrying cost, ordering costs, etc. Then inventory disposal methods. How do you dispose your excess inventory? For example, inventory need to be disposed like when it is obsolete, or kind of like a quarantined inventory, or dead on arrival things. Okay, so you will have kind of like non-saleable inventory. Okay, over a period it accumulates. How do you dispose this? Okay, then compliance with various in case of disposal also we have compliance, or even if you are a chemical company, okay, you need to kind of like store only a specific quantity in your warehouse. You cannot exceed this, otherwise you may be building, who knows, you may be making a huge bomb. Okay, so just for a safety purpose, two chemicals should not be stored next to each other. In some cases, two chemicals are not allowed to be stored in the same warehouse. Then material safety data sheets, then suitable material handling equipments and handling requirements for your inventory, packaging and packing requirements, right? Then safety and security of personnel and materials, then storage mechanisms, storage conditions and specifications, transportation requirements, permissible sinkages. That is, like for example, you are storing, say you are storing petroleum, okay, petroleum products. There is a natural shrinkage, like for example 2% every month, or even in like in US, like this is an interesting one. In US, 2% is allowed shrinkage. Even like for example in Walmart, kind of like, you know, like in US, like all over the world, okay, all over the world, the shoplifting is very common, right? Especially like in a mom and pop store, shoplifting is, you cannot heard of it. Okay, they will be very particular, because nobody can walk into the store. But on the other hand, in case of a hypermarket, okay, shoplifting is quite common. Okay, and what they say is, like for example, Walmart employees are advised, whenever somebody is shoplifting, never ever try to stop them, because they may be having guns. Okay, so it's a kind of like rather kind of like record this and then make it as a complaint. Never ever try to stop this. It may be kind of like, because shoplifting may be kind of like the person may be lifting some $10, but if he shoots somebody, that is a very serious thing, right? Somebody will be severely injured. So then right of provisions. Right of provisions means like because of this shrinkages, then frauds, embezzlements, some pilferages will be there, transportation damages, something you may not be claimed from insurance. Even like the aggregate will talk about insurance also, stock insurance management, right? All those things will be as part of the enterprise inventory policy. So with this, we are concluding the various aspects. So when you are developing enterprise inventory policy for your organization, you need to address all these aspects. It is a, I would say it is a massive exercise. Normally, kind of like whenever we do for companies, we spend somewhere between 3 to 6 months. But after that, you have a very clear-cut guideline available. So whenever you are embarking, you can take this as some of the guidelines. And here, like you can type questions in the chat area. Okay, you can tell us what you want in the future webinars, because this is a webinar series. You are registered forever, but whenever you want to discontinue, you can go to the link and you can subscribe yourself. And I encourage you to join our ISCN LinkedIn group, where some 21,000 members are there. Everybody is dedicated to supply chain, procurement, and supply. Okay, and we have a lot of decision makers within this group. Okay, the thing is, like, you can share your articles, you can introduce yourself. Okay, this is very helpful for networking. And our next session is on ABC inventory classification criteria. Okay, now let me take few questions. Okay. Okay, Sanjan Daniel has a question. Can you please slow down the pace of? Okay, I'm reading this at a very late. Okay, and can you recap what we learned every 10 minutes so that we can? Okay, definitely I will do that. And addressing Sanjan's question, this webinar is recorded and this is available in our YouTube channel. You can search for physics channel in YouTube, where we upload this recorded one, where you can kind of like do this. And also what we do is, like, we publish this in our blog, where people can ask some follow-up questions. Okay, that way you can, if you are interested to learn more, or you are embarking on this project within your organization, definitely you can clarify your questions. Okay. And kind of like, then some of the questions are not relevant to this, so I'm skipping them just to address the specific questions of this particular session. Is it possible to get sample EAP document to understand more about it? The thing is, like, it's a really a tough question. The reason is, whenever we do this, because you see the enterprise inventory policy, like we have done for several companies, but the big thing is we have signed the NDA with these companies, and it's a kind of like, we are not authorized to distribute. In fact, I'm not using the company names also, right? Because it's something like a closely guarded secret. If I give this enterprise inventory policy document to somebody, okay, they can understand a great deal about your organization. A template, maybe I will be able to provide a template. Okay, but typically you will find these headings in the template itself. Okay, we will be able to provide that. Okay, fine. Then what specific changes can be brought into the models of EAP? Okay, Shreya has a question here. What specific changes can be brought in the models of EAP? The thing is, like, the current practice is kind of like, I would say, maybe 2 or 3%. This is my gut feeling based on what we have done. Maybe 2 or 3% of the companies have something called enterprise inventory policy. Some other companies, like another 3 to 10%, may claim that they have enterprise inventory policy, but you will find it is a 2-page document. Okay, so it's a kind of like, but proper ones, I would say 2 to 3% of the companies have this, and most of them are Western MNC companies. Okay. Shreya has another question. Faced with this unprecedented situation where we are all in lockdown, how should all companies think about revamping their policies regarding supply chain and inventory, so that we are prepared to tackle these kind of scenarios? So one of the thing is, like, see, now long back we were focused on localization, one extreme. Localization here, it's a kind of like, say I'm a company in Chennai, I try to source everything within Chennai and surrounding region only, highly localized. And we were we were gradually moving to a highly globalized scenario. But now what this COVID scenario is teaching us is both are extreme steps. Take the middle path. For example, like some of the companies, like say UK, now it's kind of like having a severe impact due to COVID, and kind of like most of the necessary things to support their healthcare system, National Health Service, they don't have in-house. They have to import, and how to import, that is the biggest challenge, because no country want to export, right? Even like the scenario with hydroxychloroquine, right? So between US and India, right? So it's a kind of like so what we are saying is now the world will look into, or the companies across the globe will look into somewhere in between. Highly localized is also not economically viable, not a good decision. Highly globalized also, you will not be able to face situations like this. In fact, these are all the policies countries will take. Okay, the country will take, like now, like hereafter, say now, definitely US will ensure that some of these medicines, okay, a basic amount of medicines, okay, anything like the serious diseases, okay, because these kind of lockdowns, we are just inquiring we are just kind of like going through the first global wide lockdown, okay. Nobody would have experienced it in their lifetime. But what we are anticipating is this is not the last one, of course, and this same situation will continue for a couple of years, this situation. And that is a kind of like this is purely my opinion, okay, because suddenly, like in one pocket, the outbreak will start and we will do some lockdown in the local region. So this may be kind of like, until vaccine is there, we are not confident to go out, right? And until that time, this will be kind of like on and off scenario. This is something like a new normal. We have to be used to this. We should be kind of like wearing the masks, okay, and our hand hygiene kind of like will change forever, right? So this is something like this will completely make companies to revisit their supply chain policy, and also forces the countries to revisit their national supply chain policy. What we should make within the country, what we can outsource. So now countries will come out with certain rules, and kind of like this will have a huge impact on the supply chain, okay. And a lot of localization will happen in countries, okay, because now we have moved to the extreme of globalization, where I don't have anything within my country. For some of the countries, India is very safe actually, but if you take some of the Western countries, they don't have anything to produce within the country, okay. They are relying literally from outside. So we kind of like some of these countries, they kind of like they gradually moved away from primary and secondary sectors. They are relying on service sector alone. Service sector is highly vulnerable in these kind of situations, right? So that is the thing I'm anticipating, okay. This is purely my opinion, okay. So I think like the yeah, it is like Satish is asking like what is the YouTube channel name. Maybe next time I will put it in the slide itself, okay. I will take a couple of last questions, okay. 3 questions, okay. How do you rate this topic? Okay, please respond. This will help us to improve. Did I really bore you, or kind of like it is helpful to you, okay, so we can understand. Yeah, please give your feedback. It will be very helpful to us. Okay, I'm closing this topic. And then next one is, how do you rate the speaker? Please give your feedback. How do you rate the speaker? You can say kind of like there are ABCD options are there. You can give your feedback. Okay, I'm closing this. And one last question, please bear with me. Do you recommend this webinar to your company colleagues or friends? Yes or no? Yeah, the voting is relatively less. Please give your votes so that we can conclude the session. Yeah, I am closing this voting session. And I'm happy to see that it is 100% yes. And the voting is from, there are hundreds of participants and hundreds of registrants. I don't know the level of participants now. So it is 83% voted and 100%. Okay, thank you so much. So with this, we will conclude the session, and thank you so much. We will continue our discussion in next week, Wednesday, and the topic is ABC inventory classification criteria. So here, how to design this criteria, how to, like, we will discuss all the criteria and how to design this for various requirements of your organization. So thank you so much, and I appreciate your attendance during this session. Thank you so much. Bye for now.